Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 43. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Friday, Steelers Nation, getting ready for this Week 8 Monday night game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants. A little different Friday show today since there is no game this weekend. Won't have a beat writer on in today's episode. We'll mainly save our game preview for the Monday show. So hopefully a little shorter, tighter show today, but still plenty for us to cover and talk about. Dave, how you doing?
Yeah, happy Friday. Kind of a unique weekend here. Get to sit back and watch, obviously, the Saturday games and college games, and then full slate of Sunday games. And then, within all that, continue to get ready to watch a little bit more tape for the Monday night game against the Giants. So yeah, exciting week here. And Alex, Pitt is 7-0. It feels like I'm back 10, 11 years old again. Back Dan Marino and Tony Dorsett and those days there. So it's exciting time, especially for college football fans. Penn State's obviously having a good year so far as well too. So, it's an exciting time. I'm looking forward to preparing for this game against the Giants. The Steelers are in a great position right now from several angles here. So even though we don't have this won't be a longer show, we still have enough to chew on today.
And let's get some of those pick sixes the Panthers got against Syracuse.
Wow.
That was ridiculous. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, and then that Syracuse quarterback's supposed to be pretty good too, but certainly wasn't in that game against Pitt. What did they have? 3 pick sixes in that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think 5 interceptions total in the blowout victory. And yeah, Kyle McCord, Ohio State transfer. A lot of scouts in attendance for that game last night, including 2 Steelers personnel members. Not going to be a great game for McCord's stock.
No, he'll want to have that erase that one from his memory for sure.
All right, Dave, let's just jump right into kind of the news of the day here. We'll hit injuries in a second. Actually, let's cover the roster move. Pittsburgh's just making a roster move right before we hopped on the podcast. Nice to get a move before we start a podcast as opposed to 8 seconds afterwards. Pittsburgh had an open practice squad spot. It has been filled by wide receiver Andy Isabella, former day 2 pick of the Arizona Cardinals. Speedy receiver out of UMass. Career has never really come together quite like he hoped it would. He's been brought in for a workout before, but officially signed today. So you joked before the show, that is the receiver help that Pittsburgh has been looking for. Clap your hands. They're done. No, I'm sure not. But Pittsburgh officially adding a receiver, just not the one anyone really was talking about or wanted.
Yeah, it makes you kind of wonder about Roman Wilson and that hamstring the rest of the week, needing an extra body probably for some practice here through the rest of this week. So, a guy that obviously has some NFL experience to some degree. The Steelers, trying to think back, didn't they bring him in for a pre-draft visit way back? And then I think even for a visit since then, I think I seem to remember that, or at least I think that I remember Andy Isabella being on a pre-draft visit list years ago.
You're correct. March 22nd, 2019, written by yours truly and Dave Bryan. Reports Steelers have a scheduled visit with Andy Isabella out of UMass. And yes, he did come in for a tryout, I think earlier this month.
All right, I'm getting older, but I am losing some of my longer-term memory. But I think that one's stuck in there.
The Andy Isabella section of your brain is still working at max capacity, so we're good to go. All right, Dave, let's talk before we talk Steelers injuries. Usually Steeler fans, and myself included, aren't too interested in a Vikings Rams game on a Thursday night on Amazon, but this one actually had some implications for Pittsburgh and went in the direction that does not seem to benefit the Steelers, with the Rams pulling off the 30-20 upset victory over the Vikings. It seems it's trending towards, and seems more likely than not, the Rams will keep wide receiver Cooper Kupp. Post-game, Sean McVay basically saying that, hey, we want this guy here. He's been subject to trade rumors. McVay acknowledged teams had called. He said a lot of the speculation and reporting had been wrong, didn't detail what was incorrect. Point is, Rams are 3-4. Their playoff hopes are not done. Heck, they could still win the division. They're only a game out of the NFC West standings. And so the odds of Cooper Kupp getting moved just took a big hit last night.
Yeah. And they had talked ahead of that game about, the outcome. I think it was Albert Breer. He was on Rich Eisen or one of those shows and said, how these next couple of games go for the Rams might dictate whether or not they move on from, because I think even Matthew Stafford's name was thrown around a little bit here in this last week about people wondering if they might deal him. But, they got Puka Nacua back. They got Kupp back. Let's see what else happened there. Well, I mean, you look at the division overall, Seattle's 4-3, and if the Rams won that game last night, which you look at the standings, San Francisco's technically in last place, I think, right now at 3-4, and 49ers have obviously had their injuries now at the wide receiver position. And as you mentioned, getting the win against the Vikings last night was part of that. They play, I think, Seattle this next week, so I mean, they're right back in the hunt here. And I thought it was McVay addressing those rumors up front during the press conference there. Well, he was obviously asked about them, but there's no way you can come away from that post-game press conference and think that the Rams are going to deal Cooper Kupp away or anybody of significant value right now. Now, look, you still got one more week after this, I think, before the trade deadline here. But even if the Rams were to lose to Seattle, I don't think their season is over with. Right. And didn't they go on a pretty nice run last year and end up in the playoffs after being something similar record to this? So yeah, I said it the other day that I kind of felt it was doubtful that Kupp would end up in Pittsburgh, and especially after this win last night, I don't think they're going to deal them at all.
So where does that leave Pittsburgh in terms of the wide receiver trade market with less than 2 weeks to go? Mike Williams still a name out there, and we could talk about another player the Steelers will be facing this weekend that is subject to some level of trade rumors, and Darius Slayton from the Giants, a speedster out of Syracuse, has been fairly productive. Would that make some sense? Potentially. There was a little bit of chatter this offseason. I think they restructured his deal, reworked his contract in some form or fashion to try to keep him happy. So that'll be a name. Other ones that are thrown out there, Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton. It's not an impressive list, though.
No, and we have worked over the list several times. Let's see, with Slayton here, he's got a base salary now, $2.5 million, and obviously that's ticked down by about half at this point because of the games played. He's got roster bonuses and all per game. It looks like totaling $2.6 million. I mean, obviously he's very affordable, but he would be a 1-year rental at this point because he's not under contract past this year. It would just get into how bad the Giants want to deal him and what kind of compensation they would want to get for him, because you'd have to look at it this way as well too. If they did end up keeping Slayton and then him walking off during the offseason in free agency, could he have enough, good enough season the rest of this season that he ends up being one of the higher rated wide receivers in the free agent market? And could that equate to compensatory draft value somewhere in the 4th or 5th round neighborhood and obviously that wouldn't be until the 2027 compensation there for draft. I mean, could you get something now for him in lines of like a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick? I mean, fourth for a
That's
1
rich.
year. That's pretty rich, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be like a 6 for Slayton, be my guess of what that would cost.
and would you really want to let him go for that? So if you did acquire him, long story short, if you any team that were to acquire Darius Slayton, I wouldn't think would want to give up a lot for him. His salary is very manageable. So yeah, I think it just boils back to, how bad do the Giants want to get rid of him? How bad does he want out? Of New York, maybe after this week, but obviously you've got to prepare to play him on Monday night first and foremost.
Sure, and if you beat them, you may convince them to be more sellers than they already are, but that's all speculation, and it won't happen until after the game, obviously at the earliest, and we'll take it from there. The Williams chatter is really kind of quieted down. They thought maybe, okay, they played the Jets, they were going to table those conversations, something would happen. Perhaps Pittsburgh was in a holding pattern saying, yeah, we know Williams is out there, but let's see what's going to happen with Cooper Kupp. He's the more attractive option. I don't know. With that now being put to bed, is that reopen talks with the Jets potentially about Mike Williams? We'll see. It's all just been one big tease since Brandon Ayuk back in April.
March.
March.
Yeah, we've been talking about wide receivers and the Steelers trading for one, dating back way before the draft.
It's the song that never ends, that's for sure. All right, Dave, let's get to the here and now in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, with the Monday game, things have been shifted. The team's Thursday injury report came out, of course, on Thursday. That's the first one of the week. There was no Wednesday report. There was a Wednesday bonus day practice, but the team did not have to issue an injury report until yesterday. So the Thursday report's kind of like the Wednesday report, the first of the week. 5 players not practicing for the Steelers. Center Zach Frazier with his ankle injury, Nick Herbig with a hamstring. Don't expect either of those guys to play this week. Cam Hayward getting his usual rest days. Deshaun Elliott did not practice with a back injury, and Roman Wilson did not practice with that hamstring injury that popped up last week that made him limited. So he's going backwards, which is, of course, a bad sign for him. A couple players limited. Cordero Patterson with his ankle. Tyler Matakevich should mention his practice window to return has opened. That opened on Thursday. He was limited with the hamstring injury, and Keanu Benton with calf injury, limited, probably minor. We'll keep an eye on that with Benton, but good news on Patterson and Matakevich making some progress and practicing in full. Dylan Cook with his foot injury. He remains in that 21-day window to return. Deontay Johnson with his recurring shoulder injury that kept him out the second half of the Jets game. He was full. That's good news. DeMonte Casey full with the ankle he rolled pregame against Dallas back in week number 5. And so good news on Casey. He should play against the Giants.
Yeah, I guess the biggest question at this point, when it comes to at least heading into the Friday injury report, really into the weekend or into Monday, I guess, is what they do with the 21-day window guys such as Cook and Matakevich. Whether or not they activate those guys to the 53-man roster, as we mentioned the other day, and you just reiterated there, it doesn't sound like obviously Herbig's going to play. Doesn't sound like who was the other one?
Frazier.
Frazier's going to play. So there's 2 inactives there. Your third quarterback going to be Kyle Allen. So there's 3 on the list. We'll see what they end up doing with Roman Wilson the rest of the week, right? Especially with signing Isabella to the practice squad. Let's assume that Roman Wilson is just ultimately ruled out for the game, so he would be an inactive there. That's 4 on the list already. Then you got, it sounds like CJ Henderson will be in uniform this week. You would need at least 1 more inactive on the list prior to any possible elevations on Monday. So we're not going to have a full grasp of what the amount of inactives will look like or what the last few of them will look like until probably Monday afternoon when ahead of game time when they make those final transactions.
Right. Remember, for Monday games, the elevations and roster moves can be done up until Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, as opposed to a Sunday game where those things are all due by Saturday at 4. So we'll really have to wait and see, prior to kickoff exactly what Pittsburgh's moves are. But I think, before we talk about inactives, I think you're right. Talk about who's going to return to this roster. Matakevich seems to be tracking towards playing this weekend. He talked to I forget, he had an interview, I think, on SNR or somewhere where he was expressing his excitement to return this week. So Tomlin had similar comments during his Tuesday press conference. I would expect him to play, so that'll require releasing somebody to get him back on the 53. And Dylan Cook seems to be making good progress. That could, be a 1-to-1 switch between him and Calvin Anderson. If Matakevich gets on the roster, who goes? My guess would be Aaron Shamklin, the running back, considering that Cordell Patterson, if he's healthy and plays, don't need to have that fourth running back who would be inactive in Shamklin. So just need to see those moves before maybe making any final determinations.
That would be a good shot dart throw by you, I think, with Aaron Shamklin, because especially too, if you were to waive him on a Monday, good chance that he clears at the beginning of the week and all, and then you can circle him back to potentially the practice squad there. And then as we stated earlier in the week there, if Dylan Cook indeed got activated, I would think that it would be Calvin Anderson that would get cut loose there.
Should note that running back Jonathan Ward, I believe, is out of elevations. He's been elevated, I believe, 3 times, but with Patterson returning, I think Ward is being brought back for some special teams, some kick return type of work, and probably less necessary now. If Wilson is down, talking Roman Wilson, I should specify, considering there are so many Wilsons on this roster, do they just have Patterson be that de facto emergency receiver like before? Do they elevate? I think Brandon Johnson has one more elevation available to him. Would have to see what they do with that as well.
Yeah, but you also have a additional cornerback that supposedly didn't Henderson say he thinks he'll be on special teams. So we might not see any elevations, to be honest with you. That would be rare.
Sure, but Johnson was barely playing special teams. So it was more like just emergency. If we lose some receivers mid-game, we need to kind of have somebody. That was what I think those receivers moves were focusing on more so than the special teams aspect of it all.
The Giants injury report is interesting.
Yeah, again, it's tough to tell on a Thursday. I think once you get later in the week with the opponent, you have to look at these things a little bit more. But several players not practicing for them yesterday in cornerback Cordell Flott and punter Jamie Gillen, the Scottish Hammer. Let's see, Dexter Lawrence did not practice with a hip injury, so need to monitor that. Adoree Jackson with the neck. Limited was Brian Burns with a groin Achilles. So it's tough to tell. I'm not hearing any alarm bells on Lawrence potentially missing this week. The punter is interesting. Will they have to make a punter change potentially? Several DBs on there to talk about. So maybe the secondary is something to watch after watching the Jets really struggle with their secondary injuries. Could the Giants be in a similar situation for Monday night? We'll be paying attention to that very closely.
Yeah, and Brian, I listened to the Brian Daboll press conference yesterday. He didn't sound all that optimistic about Cordell Flott, the corner, playing in this one. We'll have to see what happens with Adoree Jackson with the neck. They, like you said, they could end up being in the same situation, real banged up secondary, like the Jets were this past week as well too. So some names to definitely watch. Obviously Dexter Lawrence is going to play in this one. It sounds like he's going to be one of these guys like the Steelers have that gets a day off during the week and all. And they obviously will have to prepare and contend for what that guy brings to the middle of their defensive line. But their secondary is the thing to watch on the injury report the rest of the weekend.
Have you watched any of Sexy Dexy yet on tape?
Yeah, I watched the sacks.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of them. There's an NFL leading 9, and the stat is, and I saw the stat the other day, he has the NFL record for most sacks by a player listed at 340 pounds or heavier. He's listed at 340. I'm betting he's a little bit heavier than 340, but he already has the NFL record through the first 7 weeks of the season for most sacks by a guy of that size. And we're only halfway, not even halfway through the season. So he's having a literally historic type of year.
Yeah, that guy can push the pocket and up right up the middle. Obviously, lines up anywhere up in the 1 or the 2 or the 0, and he's really been productive over there, and he can get to the quarterback in a hurry. So Ryan McCollum, as Mike Tomlin said, in the press conference the other day, going to have his hands full. So they better definitely have a plan to put a couple of guys on him. And they do, a good job twisting and stunting, I think, up front from the little bit of defensive tape that I've watched so far. So that guy, along with Brian Burns, one of their big, obviously, additions that they had got from Carolina, off the edge is impactful. That's their front line are definitely needs attention this week, and Lawrence the big mark within that.
Because guess who leads the NFL in sacks? It's the Giants. I would not have guessed that, but the Giants have 31 sacks this season. We'll save most of our Giants talk for Monday, like I said earlier. But the first thing I noticed about Dexter Lawrence when I put on his tape, his stance is like he's almost occupying two gaps just based on how he aligns. He's got this super wide, stance where it's not a sprinter stance with 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. It's just, even, parallel. And I mean, he just takes up almost the A and B gap just based on how he aligns pre-snap. It's pretty funny to watch. All right, Dave, let's talk coordinator corner between Teryl Austin and Arthur Smith, both men speaking as usual on Thursday. We'll start with Arthur Smith and asked about Russell Wilson, and he really seemed to appreciate and praise Wilson's no panic and veteran steadiness despite the team having a slow start, the Bluebirds coming out and all those kinds of things to be able to pick things up and have that really dominant second half performance. Really after the Beanie Bishop first interception was all Pittsburgh from there. So that is certainly with the benefit of what you get with a veteran like Wilson, who's been there, done that, and able to kind of stay calm despite some rocky seas.
Yeah, that taps on to the top of what Mike Tomlin had said coming out of that game and on into his Tuesday press conference as well too. And then you fast forward or add on. Russell Wilson's a master at his press conferences at this point, and make sure he names everybody on the roster on the offensive side of football, and make sure to give plenty of praise. And I think there's a couple of clips running around from Steelers.com of kind of that in-game stuff, and the guy, you just can't. He's unflappable. He said, and we said this right from the get-go with him. He says all the right things, it seems like, and I mean, they obviously did get off to the rough start there, and there was no panic in him, and I think he won over a lot of people in the second half of that game that were firmly in the corner of thinking Justin Fields should have been the starter moving forward here, but. Look, it's a one-game sample size, and I think Mike Tomlin hit on it, and to some degree Arthur Smith as well. You just you want this offense to get off to a faster start, so there are no trials and tribulations or things to overcome from a rhythm aspect early in the games. So you're not having to worry about panic situations.
Sure, and that's one thing we talked about coming into this Jets game was that although there was a lot of pressure going to be exerted on Mike Tomlin, on Russell Wilson for this thing to work and hopefully work out of the gate, I made the comment that I wasn't worried about them handling pressure. These guys are veterans at their jobs. They've been in pressure situations before. They both won Super Bowls. They both lost Super Bowls. I mean, Wilson, has that infamous moment of throwing that game-losing interception against the Patriots on the goal line. Should have handed off to Marshawn Lynch. That whole storyline there. So you can battle back from that. You can battle back some boo birds from your home crowd in the first quarter of a primetime regular season game. So I assume nothing really phases Russell Wilson in terms of pressure, and so he'll always be that steady same guy no matter the circumstances in Pittsburgh.
I agree.
What else here from Arthur Smith that he had to say that caught your attention, Dave?
What else was there? Talked about Darnell Washington and getting the ball thrown to him more. Not many people around him. Says some of it's scheme. Again, the other things that are working, you change up pitches off the stuff that you're doing. A lot of things. Let's see. You try to reward guys that do a lot of the hard lifting for you. The tight end certainly has been Darnell and Pruitt. When he's been playing, and it goes on to say Van Jefferson, those are things that you try to reward guys. I mean, nothing earth shattering there. I mean, we've seen, and we mentioned this the other day, what they're doing with kind of leaking him out after chipping or blocking and kind of some of the stuff that we saw at Georgia with Darnell Washington getting the ball in his hands. I mean, if they're going to leave him unblocked and coming off the line, you got to try to get the ball in his hands and make some of those DBs make some business decisions down the field there. So, I mean, not overly insightful from Arthur Smith there.
Yeah, isn't that just the old, and I've been trying to figure out how to best describe that play, those little boots, but isn't it just basically Spider 2 Y banana, the old John Gruden concept, little flat route, little corner route, backside crosser, and again, just to, Washington's been open. He was the recipient of all 4 receptions he had off that concept against the Jets. They run that play. That is such a core concept of them. They run that play maybe 50, 60 times this season, dressed up in different ways, but it's the same reads and same, easy kind of completion, get the quarterback out on the move, change the launch point, and hopefully get a couple of easy free yards if the defense takes the cheese. And I think Wilson selling the play fake is a component of that, of why Washington was open so much in this game, why that play was so largely effective. And I think Smith even made a reference. He was talking in more general terms, but it felt like you could certainly apply it to Fields and Wilson in terms of selling the play fake. And we talked about earlier this week that Wilson really sells the play fake well.
Agreed, and it'd be nice to watch them try to build on that this week against the Giants as well, especially with the secondary situations that they have. I do kind of wonder if some of these guys in that secondary aren't able to play. Look at one thing that obviously stuck out to both of us was when the Jets went man, the Steelers' ability to rub those guys off effectively. I don't know if you want some inexperienced guys playing a lot of man in this. Obviously, seeing what Russell Wilson or the Steelers' offense was able to do with pushing the football down the field in certain situations. To me, I don't know. I'll look more at this at the defensive study the rest of the weekend here. I kind of wonder if we'll see a lot of cover 3 in this and them just try to keep a lid on things and try to make the Steelers drive down the field 13 plays.
Yeah, we'll see. And injuries, like you said, may dictate a lot. That Giants defense has held their own this year. Certainly, it's been the strength of the team compared to how much their offense is struggling. Just overall, Dave. And I think the bye week we'll probably both take better inventory of things when it's a little bit calmer. But because this Friday is not as close to kickoff as it normally is, how happy are you with the Arthur Smith offense in terms of how it's been coached, in terms of the scheme, the design, compared to the Matt Canada experience last year? Are you happy? Is there any particular critique you have of the offense? What are your feelings right now?
I mean, schematically, you're seeing guys get open. Look, I roll back to kind of the initial stuff that you wrote about, and we studied, and you go back to the Arthur Smith coaching clinic that he gave with North Carolina. I mean, it felt like we had a pretty good grasp, and I think you even laid it out in one of the tweets after the game about the run pass distribution. We've seen the personnel usage with the heavy tight end. I don't think we've been overly surprised with what their demeanor, what they're trying to, what their identity is on offense. I do think the last couple of weeks we've seen, or at least I think I've seen, that the wide receivers seem to be a little bit more crisper with their route combinations. I mean, I love the fact seeing what they did in the one-on-one situations and the ability to rub off. We haven't seen a lot of that, I don't think, overall from the Steelers offense so far this year. The play action element wasn't great to start with. It got better, a lot better, obviously, this past week. I think the offensive line is just getting a little bit more cohesive with these new pieces that they put in here overall. Long story short, I think schematically it looks fine on tape. I think you see people getting open. I think they've left some plays on the field from the quarterback position overall. And there's been obviously a couple of drops mixed in with this. So I think there's a lot of stuff that can be built on here overall. I would like to see them be able to run the ball a little bit better, especially on early down situations. Maybe mix in a little bit more of the man blocking stuff and get some of these guys on the move. I like how some of I think, and didn't Arthur Smith kind of hit on this about moving the offensive linemen in play action?
Moving them in terms of,
and pulling them and trying to give.
Oh, yeah, some like false run keys and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a little bit of that, maybe not a ton of that this year. They're not a heavy gap scheme in general. So I think the teams that are probably more, that's their personality, can utilize that more effectively. But sure, that's another way to probably sell play action better as well. There's a cost to that in terms of how you block things up and in terms of the pass pro aspect, those play action looks and calls. But another way to try to accomplish and improve play action.
And it might be a little I definitely undersold Michael Pruitt initially when they signed him, and then he obviously played in the first couple of games and then lost him for a bunch of them. I think what he, the aspect of what he gives you from a blocking aspect in this offense can't be undersold either. So look, the key thing at this point is keeping these guys healthy and together, especially on that offensive line. The rust aspect of Russell Wilson should be knocked off by now. I'm looking for a faster start here out of this offense, and I think everybody on that coaching staff is as well too. Moving into this Monday night game, you got the extra day on top of it all. You get some people back like Cordell Patterson, hopefully on top of it. So, yeah, I'm, the points have been up there. That's been a key factor here. So it feels like, if they do things right in this game against the Giants, and then have the bye week to look at tendencies and stuff along those lines, I think there's a lot to build on, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how the offense has been built overall. Like we mentioned on the Wednesday show, it has been the true Arthur Smith experience, really to the letter of how his offenses are built in terms of the run rate and, really high, and pass rates being really low, the amount of 12 personnel and multiple tight end sets. Just having tight ends and running backs galore on the roster, really utilizing just one primary receiver in the pass game. Everyone else really kind of getting just whatever is left over, a pretty good distribution of the football. Still overall in totality, in terms of 6 different guys catching touchdowns this year, which typically does not happen in Pittsburgh, especially this early. So all the hallmarks, the play action rate, the under center rate, have been the Smith experience. I think schematically, I think in terms of the game plan, it's been more fluid. It's been much smarter, better package plays, better constraint plays. Just better timing, better mix-ups and change-ups, the way that you can run your base stuff out of so many different looks. Like you mentioned, that spider, spider 2 wide banana. Yeah. Dressing that up in 1,000 different ways to make it look different to the defense, but the same for the offense has been smart and effective. I mean, in terms of, critiques, still trying to find some more fluidity with the run game, but that's probably more to do with O-line injuries than it really is necessarily the scheme of it all. Probably still some work to do to really make sure Pickens is being designed to get some plays to him early and working on different ways to get him open and really focusing on that. Maybe there's been some lack of that throughout the season, inconsistency there, which again is kind of with Smith. He's more focused on getting the ball to everyone as opposed to feeding the ball to his star players. So that there's probably a little bit of critiquing there. But yeah, overall, this offense is ascending. Got to get better on first down, and that's not always a scheme thing. That is certainly a player execution aspect. There's really no particular schematic complaint I have necessarily in first down, other than maybe some pretty high run rates. But I know that was one of my chief complaints under Matt Canada, something I focused on consistently, and it's not really gotten better under Arthur Smith. So that's one stat I want to watch going forward to get them on schedule and get a drive going, so they're not in 2nd and 8 and then you're in kind of a tough spot there for a run-heavy offense.
Then they were a little bit better on 1st and 10 situations, as we pointed out in this other this past week after the game against the Jets. You would like to see it continue to increase here, because I think overall this offense is not 3rd and long situations. You kind of worry about those, and didn't they at one point? Weren't they? Were they 0-6? Didn't we
They started 0-6 on third down.
0-6 and third down. So you want to get in obviously more manageable situations for this offense coming out of the chute here. Look, you look at statistically some of the things that Patrick Mahomes' stats are, like adjusted net yards per passing attempt and average depth of target and completion and all. Those aren't high, but the thing with Patrick Mahomes is man, that guy can convert some third downs, so that's how they make up for some of those key metrics that we talk about overall there. That's the big difference in what the Chiefs are able to do offensively that maybe offenses like the Steelers aren't built to do in third and long situations here. But look, I mean, you hopefully get Zach Frazier back after the bye. You hope the rest of these guys stay healthy. And I said this, after losing Fautano and after losing Frazier there immediately after that, things seem to, for all the injuries that this offensive line has come, and Broderick Jones hasn't been playing great, but I mean, I still believe that this offensive line is something that you can work with here. As I mentioned, I think Mason McCormick's done a fantastic job at right guard. Dan Moore's having a great season. Sayamala's back and doing the things that he does. If you can get Broderick Jones to play a little bit better over there at right tackle, you definitely have something to build on here. So it's trending well right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like where Pittsburgh is headed, and that's the most important thing, not just where you're at, but where you're hopefully going and making strides toward, and Pittsburgh seeing improvements there. There'll be ebbs and flows across the way, and it's not going to be perfect. You're going to face some really good defenses coming up here. Baltimore, in particular, at least against the run, the pass defense is shakier for them, but still, I like where Pittsburgh is at and where they can ultimately end up. All right, let's flip over to Teryl Austin, his comments with the media on Thursday. A lot of Beanie Bishop Jr. talk. I thought Beanie also himself, when he spoke to the media earlier this week, had some really interesting comments and didn't say this is the reason why he's playing better, but I think he said 2 weeks ago, which would put it right after the Dallas game where he really struggled. He was having some, Friday morning meetings kind of one-on-one with Mike Tomlin and going over some pointers, and Bishop, seemed to be crediting that to some reason why he's improved his play and had that great game against the Jets on Sunday night. And Teryl Austin, who a couple weeks ago post Cowboys game said, he's going to bounce back. We're going to trust in him. That trust and that patience is paying off.
Yeah, and I think Beanie came out and said that Cam Sutton, he's learning a lot from Cam Sutton throughout this process as well too there. So this is a guy that's just, getting adjusted to what he's asked to do at the NFL level, without a doubt. And I don't think the unfortunately didn't win defensive. Did he win the Pepsi award?
I did not check I'm not sure if it's been announced. I assume it has been by now. But
yeah, I guess he didn't win it, did he?
Probably would have seen it had he won it. Pepsi Rookie of the Week. Keon Coleman, offense. I don't know if they do offense, defense. I don't know how exactly.
Pepsi award. Yeah, I think it's just one rookie. I guess Coleman won it, so he didn't win that. Didn't win Defensive Player of the Week for the AFC side either there. But look, it was a really good grow up game for Beanie Bishop against the Jets, and you just hope and as Austin has said, just stick with him and. He's going to continue to grow, and we think he can bounce back, and he certainly did. And he was a guy that both you and I were worried about going into that Jets game. So it's good to have to stick your foot in your mouth after that. And the Giants coming up, and they run either 11 personnel or feels like 12 personnel a lot. He should have plenty of opportunities, plenty of snaps in this game against the Giants. And then you get past the bye and you get to more confidence in him. It'll open up some things that maybe you can do with both him and Cameron Sutton.
Yeah, very interested to see how Pittsburgh splits up the labor. Will Bishop remain in his every down slot role? Will Sutton come in passing situations? Will Sutton only play in dime packages and play out there in third and long, but Bishop still being every down, every sub package, I should say, kind of a guy? We'll see, but some options there, some flexibility, and that's certainly good to have, especially getting that in the middle of a season. What was your take on Austin talking about Joey Porter Jr., and we're not traveling as often because we have a lot of trust in Deontay Jackson? Has it felt like they're not traveling as often on number ones? I hadn't gotten that sense, but Austin's comments were curious there.
I Well, I mean, Porter obviously has been switching sides here and there. I don't know if it's been it has not felt as much as extravagant as I thought it might be.
How did you envision it going at the start of the year?
I envisioned they'd move him a lot against some of these top wide receivers.
Yeah, I still feel like he has. I mean, because against CD, he was on Lamb a lot of the game. Our charting doesn't represent necessarily all the shadowing. It doesn't put it in that kind of detail.
Let's look how many times he's just played on the right side in general.
Yeah, I pulled some of the numbers. I don't have them offhand, but I mean, it's a pretty even split between left corner and right corner reps. And about, I think, 17 he's gotten in the slot this season, which I think in those moments certainly would indicate him shadowing a top guy.
201 at right corner, 150 at left. Slot 22, box 45, free safety 2. Oh, 3.
Free safety 2. Free one. We got
some sort of
rotation.
Yeah, rotation. 2 of those came in week 2. One of those against Denver. 1 came in week 4.
Okay, yeah, our charting has things a little bit different in terms of how we do it, but similar results overall. Yeah, so again, it's hard to say for sure. But I mean, the point is, and I'm probably getting in kind of the weeds about, is he traveling? He's traveling some, but the point is they have confidence in Deontay Jackson. So really, no matter how the offense presents itself, they feel like those guys can match up well.
Right.
Anything else here?
Look, Jackson and Elliott have been really good additions to this team. It goes without saying. So keep those guys healthy, and they can, if they feel the need to switch sides, and continue doing that, they can definitely do that. I think Porter played a really strong game against the Jets. I think you pointed that out in a couple of clips on Twitter this past week. And both these guys are willing to come up and tackle. And obviously, with what Deshaun Elliott's doing and coming up, especially on third down situations, has been key. And when they've the times that they've run blitzed him, he seems to easily get free and make big plays in the backfield as well.
7 months later, what are your thoughts now with the benefit of hindsight on the Deontay Johnson, Deontay Jackson trade? How good of a trade has that been?
Well, look, Jackson has obviously held up his end of things. Would you like a guy like Deontay Johnson to have over there opposite George Pickens? Yes. But it's not like Deontay Jackson hasn't held up his end of the bargain for sure.
Yeah, I think from looking strictly at the player for player trade, I'm certainly much happier than I was when the trade was officially made. I didn't think Deontay, when I watched the tape after, I didn't think Jackson was as bad in Carolina as some Panthers fans made him out to be. Whenever they were like, we're getting rid of this guy, they're going to cut him if they can't trade him, and maybe they would have, but I didn't see disaster on tape. And for a guy that was coming off, he tears Achilles 2 years ago and coming off that injury, for a speed guy like him, I didn't see his tape as something that was so horrible that the Panthers were just so happy to get rid of him. But I didn't expect him to play this well, have this kind of role. I thought, okay, if he can just be average and just don't be a liability, then I can live with that, with Porter being the number one. But Jackson has really been a plus and been making plays and been consistent. It wasn't just a week one flash in the pan kind of thing. The only issue still, and my main gripe, I guess, from the Johnson deal was, okay, you trade Deontay, you fill a hole at corner, but you create one at receiver. How do you fill that at receiver? And we're still having that ongoing conversation about, okay, they created that hole, they've never been able to fill it, and that's still a thread that is yet to be pulled and closed up.
Deontay Jackson making himself some money this part, halfway through the season, leads the team obviously in interceptions, probably up there. What is he league wide as far as interceptions go here?
He's got 3 of them this year?
McKinney, I think, leads the league.
He's got 5.
5. Humphrey's got 4, thanks to Baker Mayfield. Brian Branch playing fantastic balls, got 4. Kirby Joseph. So Deontay Jackson's just 2 out of the lead as far as interceptions go. It might end up being a tough guy to re-sign if you want him back, at this point.
Yeah, it won't be cheap. I mean, we'll talk about all those things after the season, but I think all things being equal, I believe I mentioned this on a previous episode, that I think he'd be willing to come back. I'm sure he's enjoyed his time in Pittsburgh. It's really revived his career. He felt like a guy that, was, career was kind of maybe towards wrapping up, just not having a great time in Carolina. So to be able to win and have success and really, I think, thrive in this culture, the scheme, to be the number 2, not have to be kind of the guy, one of the top guys on the defense, allowed him to play a little freer. So I think he'd like to come back, but of course the market will dictate a lot about where he ends up.
All right. Teryl Austin, a lot of positive, a couple of quotes on Peyton Wilson.
Yeah, I liked his progression, and I mean, just watching him on tape. And I made the comment too. I think obviously out in space, when you watch this guy turn and run, he's super effective. Just watching him attack the toss game, run sideline to sideline, his range. I was even watching him. I'm going to post some clips on Twitter later today on kick coverage. I thought he was excellent on kick coverage in this game, getting off of blocks and making tackles and forcing guys to run away from where their blockers were going. A really effective game there. So in space, he's good. But as Austin kind of pointed out, still working on those in tight situations, getting off of blocks and playing run game a bit better. I think he's still got some work to do there. So it's really kind of still been as I expected. I think Wilson's traits and where he's best is certainly out in space. Still think he's got to work on being a little more physical, working his hands better in tight in some of those close quarters run situations.
Yeah. I mean, as pointed out the other day, that guy can, there were a couple of plays in that game against the Jets where he certainly can get sideline to sideline.
Yeah, but we know he can do that. The question is, can you play when the ball is between the tackles? And I think he's capable of doing it. I don't want to say he's not. He's made some plays, but I think you're looking for more consistency and technique and being a little bit stronger, because he's a big guy too. And so it's not like it's one of those super small linebackers. It's like, okay, I can't go at the guard. I got to go around him because he's going to just engulf me. I mean, Wilson he's smaller weight wise, but he's 6'5", 240, whatever. I mean, he's a big guy for a modern day linebacker. So he should be a guy that can really attack downhill and take these guys on without having to try to the hole. Let's go around him, get out of a gap, because he should not have to play that way.
Right.
All right. Probably wraps up the coordinators pretty well. Dave, anything else?
Danny Smith talked.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. How do I forget? It's the first time he's talked all year. And so that was a pleasant surprise. That must be my birthday or something. Danny Smith speaking to the media and just talking about the culture and the buy-in and how the guys really just, believe in him and believe in themselves. I love the story about Jeremiah Moon and kind of how his punt block against the Raiders came to be, that against the Cowboys the week before, he had a good rush and kind of got close to a punt. And Danny Smith talked to him the next day after the game and said, have you ever blocked a punt before? And he said no. And Smith says, you're long and lean. Let's work on it. And lo and behold, a week later, gets a free rush up the A gap and has a big time block against the Raiders. So, love hearing that from Danny Smith.
Absolutely. What a week it was for him.
Yeah, I talked about Minkah Fitzpatrick and the thoroughbred that he is. And yeah, you got to give credit to those starters on defense. I mean, Cam Hayward been on the field goal block team forever. Minkah being out there, those guys are tired on those drives and those situations. And so to still have the mental energy and the, of course, physical energy to go out there and play hard on teams. So Landon Roberts is playing on punt coverage right now because they've had some injuries to Herbig, for example. And so Roberts has seen an uptick in snaps there. He's not playing every down on defense, but still kind of a starter in their base package. So, just seeing all those guys put their hand in the pile has been a lot of fun.
Didn't you pick out, what'd you pick out with Minkah switching sides?
Yeah, playing some leapfrog, but there was an earlier extra point the Jets had where Minkah went over to the right side. The formation was set to the right side, and he tried to jump over the same gap. He ended up blocking that field goal through between the wing and, in this case, it'd be the Jets' left tackle, and he got kind of pushed back, and so he couldn't get through. And they flipped it the next time out there, and he got through and blocked that one, on that terrible leverage call that negated it all. But interesting to kind of see those guys work at it. Let's try to jump this side. Okay, this side's not working. Let's try to jump the other side. Okay, that side's working. And so a little bit of kind of fact binding throughout the game gets you what should have been a stood block kick there.
All right.
And he's blocked a couple. He's blocked 3, right? Because he blocked 2 of the negated. Yeah, the Bengals one still an extra point there that saved the game. The Packers one he blocked that got called back on that very questionable. Joe Hayden offsides, and then this one got called back on leveraging. So we talk so much about Miles Killebrew, and we should almost had another block punt in this game, but like Minkah Fitzpatrick, had it not been for dumb penalties, be right up there for a league lead in block kicks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dave, anything else from any other players that spoke throughout the week? Wilson speaking yesterday, Cam Hayward, Najee Harris, etc. Any notable comments there?
Yeah, nothing really stuck. I mean, pretty standard stuff. Najee, not a big fan of talking to the media, but nothing really stuck out with those guys.
Cam Hayward will be playing in game 202 Monday night against the Giants. That'll be a record, most games played by a Pittsburgh Steelers defender, breaking a tie with the great Donnie Shell. Now only going to be trailing it's Ben, Webster, and Ward. And so Hayward talked about what that meant to him, but still a job to do. Certainly would like to play game 202 and win this game 202.
What did you think, real quick, about the missed face mask last night in that game late? Rams and Vikings there. Should they look at non-subjective stuff like this, or replay assist? And I think someone, was it Breer or somebody, or Pelissero, said that I believe the Rams were even had a proposal on the table of looking at some of these things that got shot down, and they ended up being a benefactor. Isn't it funny how those things work out there? But should things like face mask, and I guess we could go down the list, what kind of things should be? You obviously don't want more flags in the game, and you don't want a lot of time spent on it. But I mean, that, even though they still had to march the rest of the field there, that was another down that they didn't get. That could have impacted that game last night.
Yeah, you don't want more flags, but do you want more missed calls that feel like you get robbed of seeing how a game should be unfolding? And that one, of course, not only was a sack, but a safety that ended the game, essentially. So I am very slow to debate about refs and missed calls. I hate doing it. I hate when it becomes a story in Pittsburgh. Occasionally it does, like for any team, but it's just so pointless. I mean, there's a missed call, nothing you can really do to talk about it, and there's really not much to say there. I've always been a proponent of getting the calls right above everything else, so I'd be open to expanding review. Now, maybe that should be something where it's just the eye in the sky, and who's at New York upstairs that can buzz down. Maybe that won't be a challengeable situation, but something where replay review can automatically look at those things and make that judgment down to the officials. Maybe that's the better way to try to not slow the game down too much, because those face masks are pretty clear. Like, that's a pretty quick call that can get made. Doesn't require a challenge flag and an announcement and booth review and coming back and making the call. So yeah, short answer, I think there's probably some ways to expand what can be reviewed, because I'm all for getting the calls right. All right, Dave, I think we can, again, no beat writer today, no game preview. We'll do all those things Monday in terms of the Giants. So let's just dive into our week 8 picks. And Dave, you are 1-0 on the week. You took the Rams. I took the Vikings last night. You were on a heater last week, so you're making good ground. And you're on a hot streak right now.
I still haven't caught up with you yet, though. I think I'm a couple of games behind you on the season, but I did have a nice week last week, and I am 1-0 up on you. I had the Rams +3. You had the Vikings -3 last night. Let's get into this weekend's games. The Baltimore Ravens against the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens on the road laying 8 points.
The Browns will be starting their 31st quarterback since 2007 in Jameis Winston. I'm super excited for them to get to 32, because then they could technically give one starting quarterback to each NFL team, which will be a fun stat to talk about when the time comes, maybe later this year. I'll say the Browns with Winston, his interception prone as he can be. I'll say the Browns cover.
Yeah, the Ravens a little bit beat up, but boy, what they're doing offensively, and I mean, the Browns are out of it at this point. I'm going to take the Ravens, lay the 8 points, go opposite you here. Titans on the road against the Lions after selling off DeAndre Hopkins. The Lions at home laying 11.5 points.
Ooh, big line. Mason Rudolph, I believe, will be starting. I think the plan is for Will Levis to become the starter once he's fully healthy with that shoulder injury. I think Rudolph will get at least this week. Maybe you can check me on that. Huge line there, but for a good reason, I'll take the Lions.
I will take the Lions to win, but I'll take the 11.5 points. I think they cover that. So give me the Titans plus 11.5. The Packers on the road against the Jaguars. Packers laying 4 down in Florida.
Jaguars showing a little bit of fight there. Like big comeback over in London. They probably saved Doug Peterson's job. I'll take the Packers.
I'll take the Packers lay to 4 points on the road. The Colts on the road against the Texans. They played the Texans pretty tough, I think, a couple of games last year, didn't they? The Texans at home laying 5 against the Colts.
Yeah, and CJ Stroud coming off his worst game of his career. I think 86 passing yards in that one. Richardson can be just such a flighty type of quarterback, though. I'll take the Texans to bounce back.
I'll take the Texans. This one's going to end up being close, probably right on the line, I bet. But I'll take the Texans lay to 5. The Jets on the road against the Patriots. It feels like a good week for the Jets to get right here. Jets laying 7 on the road against the Patriots.
Drake Mays look pretty good. It's a divisional game. I think the Jets win. I'll say Patriots cover.
I think the Jets blow them out. I will easily lay the 7 points. What should be a game that will have my interest on Sunday. The Eagles on the road against the Bengals. The Bengals are laying 3 at home.
I'll take the Bengals. That offense is rolling. The Eagles still sputtering just a little bit.
I will take the Bengals lay to 3 points as well. The Falcons go to Tampa Bay against that banged up receiving core. The Falcons laying 2.5 on the road against Tampa Bay.
Did you have an issue with Chris Godwin playing that one out and the starters for Tampa Bay playing out the final couple minutes against the Ravens?
No.
I didn't either. I know there was a lot of pushback there, and obviously the injury really puts that into light, but I was not. I don't know. I just wasn't upset about it. I mean, I understood what Todd Bowles was doing there.
Right. I do as well. And they got the one onside kick and all, and right. They thought they still had a Hail Mary prayer, within there to come back in that one. It's unfortunate.
And there is no limited to 2 onside kick rule that was coming out after the game. That's not a thing. There was a proposal, I believe, about it, but that is not. It was not passed, and so you can have as many onside kicks you have to declare in the fourth quarter, but there is no limit there. Anyway, to your question,
Falcons laying 2.5.
Yes, Falcons.
I bet I'm going to say the Buccaneers find a way to win this one. I'll take the Buccaneers plus 2.5 here. Okay. Cardinals on the road against the Dolphins. Dolphins laying 4 at home against the Cardinals.
Tua coming back. Give me Miami.
Yeah, I'll take Miami lay to 4 with you there. Buffalo Bills in what should be a good game on the road against the Seahawks. The Bills are 3-point road favorites up there in Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle can play. Geno Smith a little up and down. On the road, this one's tough. I'll take Buffalo.
I'll take Buffalo lay to 3 points with you. The Saints on the road against the Chargers. The Chargers are laying 7, and they're not. The Saints are not going to have Carr again.
Yeah, going to be Spencer Rattler. I'll take the Chargers. That defense is too good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll take the Chargers lay to 7. Chiefs on the road against the Raiders. The Chiefs are laying 9.5 in Vegas.
Last time they played was the Raiders win, right? Where the Raiders didn't do anything in that game, but still somehow came out on top. I think the Chiefs with Hopkins will win.
And cover the 9.5, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the Chiefs lay the 9.5 with you there. The Panthers on the road against the Broncos. The Broncos are laying 10.5 against the Panthers. Things aren't going well in Carolina. I wonder if it sounds like Deontay Johnson is going to play in this one.
And so will Bryce Young after that car accident that Andy Dalton got and that hurt his thumb. Got to face that Broncos defense has been really good. No one talks about that. They've done a great job. Welcome back, Bryce Young. It's a big line, but I'll take Denver.
I'll take Denver. Panthers might not score any touchdowns in this game. Bears on the road against the Commanders. Is Daniels going to play in this one? I think we'll find out more today. The Bears, battle of the rookie quarterbacks here, maybe. Bears laying 3 on the road against the Commanders.
You wonder if this line will move based on Daniel's status. To my knowledge, here Friday morning, it's still up in the air. Although Mariota came and did a great job when they didn't miss a beat once Daniels went down. I think maybe he'll sit out. Either way, I'll take the Bears.
I'll take the Commanders plus the 3 points here. An interesting game here. Cowboys versus the 49ers. Both these teams really need a win here. The 49ers at home laying 4 points. Obviously lost Brandon Ayuk for the season. Sounds like Deebo Samuel might give it a go. I think Jennings is banged up. 49ers obviously not going to have McCaffrey back this week. Cowboys, I don't think are going to have a few of those guys still on the defensive side. 49ers laying 4.
Yeah, crazy situation on the injuries, and Debo with pneumonia, which of all things. I hope he's okay. But the Cowboys can't run the ball. Their run defense isn't good. The Niners, that still can be their bread and butter. Give me San Fran.
I'll take San Francisco, lay the 4 points. And I think all that leaves us is the Monday night game, which we will pick on Monday during the show.
Have any initial feelings on which way you're going? Is there a concern meter of, Pittsburgh coming off a couple of big wins? Don't want to overlook the Giants. We don't believe in trap games. I'm with you, but any feeling of fear in this one, Dave?
No, I mean, no, not. I mean, I'm going to be picking the Steelers. I think it's pretty evident. I'm sure you are as well too. I never bought into the whole trap game thing. I just think the key thing here is getting off to the faster start against these guys. Look, they're banged. Who's going to play right tackle? I mean, who's going to play left tackle for the Giants in this game? That's going to be key in this. This could end up being a huge game for Alex Highsmith. I think the biggest component in this, one thing Teryl Austin kind of hinted at, is Daniel Jones and his ability to run and the design runs that they have on him. Not much concern other than the Steelers shooting themselves in the foot, you know.
Is there anything that concerns you about the Giants' offense? Anything that you're watching there?
Just some of that screen game that they used, getting the ball underneath, and the Steelers not doing a good job in the first half of that game. And that's another thing that Austin talked about. Things that they got to clean up is stuff that shouldn't bust open like did against the Jets, and all, just squaring that stuff away. Overall, Daniel Jones in I watched the Cincinnati game last night. They're a team that you get them behind the chains, then they're in trouble for sure. And you would think that against the Steelers front that the onus is going to try to be on Daniel Jones, get that ball out quicker than he's been able to do. That interception they threw early in that Bengals game was just awful decision by him down in the Bengals end of the field. So look, just make your tackles, keep a lid on things underneath, watch the quarterback run. And get off to a quick start, on offense for the Steelers. And I mean, this could be one of those games like against the Panthers years ago on, what was that, Thursday night? I mean, you might be able to run it up on these guys.
Put a 50 burger on them. Yeah, wouldn't hate that. Yeah, some of the neighbors is of course a big time talent, and Jones is tough and can run. Some of the speed they have at receiver with Slade.
Good.
Yeah, and Hyatt's not playing much for them, but he's a pretty fast guy as well. A little bit of a concern there. Yeah, we'll talk about it more on Monday, but not a whole lot sticking out to me that the offense is really struggling, obviously, right now.
All right, let's get to some reader emails and close out the show, as you like to say. Jay Schmidt writes in, "Hello, fellas. Quick question. Is there a website that has the complete transcripts of the weekly pressers with Austin and Smith? I can never find one anywhere, including the Steelers website. You have to have the media access to it, and thankfully we do, but that's the only way to get it. You have to contact the Steelers PR to get access to that."
Yep, that's the way to do it.
Jeff Kinney, replay question. David Alex, great job on a terrible podcast, guys. I recall hearing that during a replay challenge, the entire play is reviewed, not just a specific element in question, but I'm not sure if that is the case. If that is correct, could the Vikings have challenged the placement of the ball on Thursday night, even though the sack of Sam Darnold was ruled a safety in order to surface the obvious face mask call? Do you know what he's
asking? If you challenge one particular aspect, can anything in that play be looked at and potentially overturned, is what he's asking.
Man, I can't remember if that's the case or not.
I am not 100% sure either. We could bring our own Gene Steratore here in the middle of a show and weigh in. I know there are some situations where you can have multiple things being looked at and reviewed. Didn't that happen? Did it happen against Pittsburgh last year with Nakua? Did that happen on one of his sideline receptions, or am I misremembering what happened there? I forget. Um, there are some situations, but I think generally the challenges are to the scope of the challenge, and it's not just a la carte. Whatever happened on the play can be looked at again. I don't think it goes generally that way.
Face mask is not reviewable anyway. Right. So there's that aspect of it there. We should probably research that to get a better understanding of it. I can't remember off the top of my head. Center question from Brett now. Two quick questions. First, have you been surprised with the play of McCollum, and are you comfortable with him as the backup long-term moving forward? Second, I'm almost afraid to ask this, but who is the next man up at center if McCollum goes down? What's plan B? Thank you for so much that you do. Okay, first, ask us about McCollum after this game. Yeah. I think he did a good job against the Jets overall, especially with those big guys in the middle there. But make no mistake about Dexter Lawrence this coming week. We'll get have a better feel for McCollum and whether or not he could be the long-term moving forward, I believe, after this game.
Yeah, we're still a game and a half in. It's a pretty small sample size. Certainly give him credit. I mean, he's been ready, not missed a beat. Operationally, they were clean, which was huge. Is kind of the main thing I cared about. But his play was solid too. Is he a long-term answer? I don't know. I'm just kind of worried about this game right now. And the backup to him, not been declared, but I imagine it'll be Spencer Anderson, who has not got really many center reps throughout this summer, and maybe he's getting some more reps now, but he's got some center experience, did a little work there as a rookie in Pittsburgh in training camp preseason. So I assume it would be him. I mean, they could try to move McCormick, but I think you probably want to just keep McCormick at his right guard spot.
All right, but didn't our own David O send us something pregame against the Jets that when they were going through those pregame reps, that wasn't McCormick the one snapping to Allen?
Was he?
Or one of those? Now, obviously, you do have Frazier out. Who, I'm trying to remember who, what were the three? Maybe Spencer Anderson was one of them. I remember, I think I remember David sending us a picture of something of McCollum, at least pregame, with one of the quarterbacks, but who would have been the other one, I guess, would have been the question, because Frazier wasn't out there.
Right. Good question. I didn't remember. I don't remember seeing that. I must have missed it. So I will have to check, but that is something to certainly watch, because maybe it was McCormick, Anderson, and McCollum would make sense if they were all doing it.
Yeah, and I should have looked, because I know pregame they showed that shot of on ESPN of all three quarterback, and I didn't look at it closely. Obviously, it'd be one of Anderson or McCormick.
Can we find that clip? Can we find that clip here real quick? I'm trying to think about what to type in to get it to
I don't remember what I titled it. I know I posted one of them. I don't remember.
Trying to find, you got a lot of tweets over there, Dave. Yeah. So me trying to find that quickly, probably not going to work super well for me off the top. Good question, though. I would like to know
what did they have? Did they have anything on the depth chart or no? Not that really matters.
I don't think they put a third string center. I'm not even sure. I think it's just still Frazier, and I think McCollum, because Frazier is still, he's not on IR or anything like that. So it's not gonna show you that.
Maybe David O can chime back in on us this week.
Yeah, we got the Monday show. We can wait till.
Let's get to Bees. Has been listening for years now. You've accompanied me across many of my life's highs and lows and have been a consistent presence. So thank you. Are the Steelers Super Bowl contenders in a somewhat weak AFC outside of the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills? Look. Coming out of that game against the Jets, game that I thought they were going to lose, seeing what they're able to do after the slow start on offense, knowing what the defense has done so far, knowing that the guy, or hoping that the guys that they're going to get back soon and hopefully not suffer more injuries. And with the landscape of a couple of those AFC North games changing, especially with the Browns. Look, I still think the games against the Bengals and the Ravens, for obvious reasons, are going to be tough. The game against the Chiefs will be tough. The Eagles probably not what we thought they were at the beginning of the season. The Commanders is going to be an interesting game. Probably a little bit harder than what initially thought. All that said, I do think, at least coming out of the game against the Jets, you do have to reevaluate what you think the upside of this team is. From where I sit right now, pending the Monday night game against the Giants and them doing what most people think that they can do, I think that you have to think that this team is at least a playoff caliber team, and you have to feel better about their chances of at least potentially getting one playoff win. So, I mean, are we talking Super Bowl contenders here yet from what we've seen? I'm not willing to go there yet. Man, the Ravens are good. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. The Bills are going to be there. Let's see what happens with the Jets in the back half of their schedule here. Who else who are the top teams in the AFC right now? I think we just named them, right?
Yeah, I'm still discounting the Bengals. I mean, they always get off the slow starts, always get hot in the end. They're 3-4. They're not out of this thing. And even if it's wild card with that offense, where they can put up points, if their defense can just become like they're the opposite. They're like, can we have a top 5 scoring offense and an average defense? If we can do that, okay, we can make a run of this thing. Where Pittsburgh's going, okay, can we have an average offense and top 5 scoring defense, and we can make a run of this thing? So not discounting them, but you mentioned, I think the bulk of the teams there.
And who are the Houston Texans? You know, they're 4-0 in the conference. They're 5-2 overall. I mean,
I'm confident. I think Houston can still make a run and be in this thing.
You know, if you look at the seeding as it sits here right now, it goes Kansas City, Houston, Baltimore, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, and Denver. Do either Indianapolis or Denver scare you?
Indianapolis or Denver, do they scare me?
Right.
I mean, they lost to the Colts, but I'm not necessarily scared by the Colts, no.
Now, I think one of Indianapolis or Denver will ultimately be replaced by Cincinnati. Can Miami get back on track with Tua? That's going to be, you know, the Chargers are one spot out at 8. Are they Super Bowl contenders is the question. Right now, no.
I agree. My terrible take is actually on this topic today.
Oh, sorry.
No. It's fine. There's good synergy there, but I agree. But I think they can win a playoff game. I think what Wilson has shown and the way this team is built right now, average offense, top 5 scoring defense, is exactly what I said coming into the year about how this team can finally win a playoff game. And if you do that and you're in the divisional round and you're one of the final 8 teams, then you're a stone's throw from being a Super Bowl contender. So is it a stretch to say if you believe they can win a playoff game, why not believe in yourself, at least of being a potential Super Bowl contender? By definition, you kind of almost already are.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you win one playoff game, right? You're right there.
I'm saying, you're right on the doorstep, and who knows, what could happen. So again, I would say they're not there, but it's not a far leap to, at least if you're the team, think, okay, if we can win a playoff game, how close are we to the Super Bowl? You're pretty darn close.
How will our view potentially change if they go out and just mop the floor with the Giants? Does that change much of anything going into the bye, especially if they stay healthy?
Not really. Of course, it'll be great and feel good, but it'll be it's the Giants. It's going to be, but okay, what happens on the back half of the schedule when you're playing the AFC North Gauntlet, when you're playing the Eagles, playing the Chiefs? That's where the litmus test in terms of raising the bar, how much of a contender are you truly? That's when those things become in the focus.
But what if they go out and put up Panthers ass whooping on the Giants going into the bye? There's going to be,
sure, there'll be chatter about it, but when you're talking Super Bowl contender, that bar gets raised. Beating the Giants is not a sign of that for something, maybe a sign for a team of, okay, we can make the playoffs or we're not a doorstep team or something like that. It'll be impressive, no doubt. I won't discredit it. But in terms of, beating the Giants has no real indication on, can you beat Mahomes? Can you beat Josh Allen? Those types of things.
Now, going into the season, I had this as a 9-8 Steelers team, and my biggest concern, and this was even before Russell Wilson and the calf, was the quarterback position. And while he did rebound, I want to see this offense, continue to progress here, not only on Monday night against the Giants, but into obviously the second half of the season. If the quarterback position play can remain above the line, then I will feel better about it. But I'm not there yet.
Do you still believe it's a 9-win team? If you had to predict how their win total ends right now?
I think I was asked this the other week if I would adjust my total up, and I think I said, yeah, I would go back and, because look, I had them, I think I had them beating the Colts, but losing. I had them losing to the Chargers, and they beat the Chargers, and that was a game that I flipped on late, I think. But I had them beating the Colts. I don't think I had them beating the Jets, and they beat the Jets. So, I mean, I'm obviously, one game or two games over that. They at work, put it to you this way, at worst right now, it feels like they should be a 10-win team. I mean, you've got 5 wins on the table, right? And
right,
we're both expecting them, I think, to beat the Giants. So that's 6. So 4 of your last however many games, it feels like you can win 4 of them, right? So it feels like at worst this should be a 10-win team.
Yeah, I'll still keep my 10-win projection right now. Obviously, it's trending towards hitting the over on that than the under, but I was 10-7, a wild card team. I was predicting them to be one and done again, and I'm wondering, okay, maybe I'll change my thought on that. I'm not 100% there yet, but again, I think they're showing signs of, okay, they can do what they need to do to get over this hump, get over this obstacle, and finally win a postseason game for the first time in 8 years.
Put it to you this way, is this team better sitting right here today than I thought they would be sitting at this point ahead of the season? And I would say yes.
I think what Wilson showed can take you to a different level. Because again, my expectation was average offense. I said this year, like my expectation was average competent offense, which was not a sexy tagline, but what I thought was realistic and achievable and likely to occur with a top 5 scoring defense. And that's where they're at. And I think Wilson hopefully can have this offense be more than average. And they're not going to score 37 points in every single game, but hopefully the offense can just be more explosive, more big play, and have a little bit more variety to it than what it's kind of been for several seasons. So yeah, I think they're showing a little bit more than what I thought, but they're still about where I thought they would be.
I would like to see them go out and mop the floor with the Giants Monday night.
Sure. It's just good because God forbid you lose this game, then the whole world's crashing down again going into your bye week, and you're just hanging on that and just itching to get out there and play Washington, a tough Washington team by that for week number 10. So yeah, obviously like to see that, beat the teams you should beat and beat them handily is always a good box check.
All right. I think I got through the emails in the machine there. So we will be back on Monday. We'll fully preview the Giants Steelers game. Hopefully have the beat writer that we have lined up on. What's the one game you're most looking forward to watching on the TV on Sunday?
Any big college games on this weekend? I'm always bad at checking the college game schedule.
What about NFL games though? Eagles, Bengals?
Yeah, that'd probably be a good one. I'm curious about Ravens Browns, AFC North matchup too, just to see Winston out there. Does that offense look differently, and does Baltimore continue to keep on rolling?
All right. We will be back on Monday then. So I'll wrap it up here. You can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, follow the directions, get yourself a username and a password, use that to log in with to get the ad-free version of the site. Until Monday, everybody have a super safe weekend. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.